Welcome to the Actionable ESG Talks series brought to you by AKFI, the Actionable Knowledge Foundational Institute, the world's first nonprofit sustainability association committed to bridging the gap between ESG, sustainability, and digital transformation. Actionable ESG Talks, the series bring together great minds to discuss the current state and future state of ESG, sustainability, and digital transformation. I'm delighted to be here with our guest, Anthony. Welcome, Anthony. And we'd like to talk today about enhancing the ICT supply chain, sustainability, and of course, we have to talk about AI. So without further delay, a brief introduction. Anthony is the CEO and president of Wise Components. He's a board member of the 724 Exchange in Metro New York, and chair of BICSI, the Building Industry Consulting Services International for Professional Development Committee. He leads a company built on 50 years since it was registered and more years before of excellence. The company is in IT, AV, audiovisual, security, wireless, and OEM hardware solutions. So he's pretty much everywhere in the industry, in the ICT industry. So thank you, Anthony, for taking the call today. And
thank you.
My pleasure. We start usually with a question about trends, and of course, we're going to talk about trends in ICT consulting, in the services, and from a perspective of the supply chain. What do you observe in terms of sustainability in the supply chain in the ICT consulting?
Well, the great question. And again, I'd like to thank you for taking this time to reach out and have me on your podcast. When we're talking about, from distribution standpoint, it's an afterthought in many cases, whether it be in the ICT community or plumbing supply. Unless there is a problem where there's a need, and then all of a sudden we become the superhero at the moment. Where AI is becoming a godsend in some regards is a lot of the systems that are analog now becoming what you could say digital. So in your enterprise suite buildings, your office buildings, for starters, there's a lot of laws that have been put into effect since the 2019, 2018 to help with the energy efficiencies within buildings and how they're running. So the systems that we as ICT distributor have never touched before, we're touching now a lot more. And it has to do with the integration of making these not dumb equipment. Very, very intelligent people are putting the HVAC systems and lighting systems and traditional fashion still. However, now a lot of this is being brought to you by low voltage infrastructure. So it's allowing you to have a little bit more insight, not system on off, but so much more than that. So if we were to take that away for a second, just focus on the lighting aspect. It's not the fact that low voltage infrastructure is going to reduce the cost by just turning lights on and off, right? It's the occupancy sensor that the building is aware of how many people and the traffic and where it's going, so that it can integrate with the HVAC system. So now the HVAC system doesn't go to zone 1 or 2. It's chopped down even smaller bits to help with the running cost of utilities, right? So now it's opened up a world of opportunities for us, because now the more intelligent information and real time, or I should say near time information that a facilities manager or a network manager is receiving, they're able to put together a BOM, a bill of material, that could provide the integration between these systems. So really living in a great time in this industry. We're not selling reams of paper, although I write on pen and paper, sometimes pencil. I just love the way pen feels on pad. it's my thing. I'm sticking with it. But that being said, the evolution of what we're seeing right in front of our face, it's so much more than just saying lights on, lights off. And we're benefiting as IC distributors, designers, installers. It's really a great industry to be in.
Oh, well, that's great. And actually, that points to the fact that usually companies buy new equipment. Um, we can talk about telecom, we can talk about IT, we can talk about data. And when they come to, for instance, transfer data between two systems, or in your example, smart buildings, they forget that the older equipment, the previous generation was not designed to connect with the new generation. We
Right.
didn't know about the new
In most
generation. We
cases,
didn't know
yes.
about AI. So you're fulfilling an extremely important role, and I think it's sort of a just-in-time role as well, because, as you said, this is almost like, oh my God, this connector doesn't plug in that connector in the other side. What do we do?
And being you and I hate to say unique because where there's so many reputable companies out there that have been doing the right thing by their customers, identifying their challenges and providing a solution. But I will say that we're a little different than some of the other distributors out there because we focus on two different areas that for many years have been totally separate. So we have the OEM division as well as the data division. The OEM division
Okay.
for many years only focused on manufacturing and keeping the assembly lines, whether it be for medical manufacturing companies or pharmaceutical companies, but or tooling companies, just to ensure that those assembly lines were running smoothly. On the data side, it's only been focused on copper and fiber cable and all the accessories that coincide with that. But now what we're seeing on the data center is that there's all these fittings, all these switches that they're, wait a minute, they all come together because you have plumbing, you have HVAC, you have heating transfer, you have switch gear, you have fittings and grommets and seals and solvent. It's a
Yep.
marry of products that we're seeing on both sides of the house, which is really exciting to me, having the company wise components. But looking at the data center, that's another thing that's really evolved over the last decade, as you know, and many of your listeners probably do. Where I see the next big push is not just those massive hyperscale data centers that are huge energy suck, right? I strongly believe in my opinion, don't take it to the bank. I believe that modular and more smaller agile data centers will be deployed. And I think that the AI cars are going to have a lot to do with that because you can't have latency issues if you're going 90 miles an hour on an interstate highway and the computer's driving, right? So you have to ensure that the hops between data centers, there is no latency issues. So I strongly believe as the car manufacturers are integrating AI into their platforms as they have been over the last couple of years, it's only going to grow and increase. So you can't communicate to a data center in Washington State and you're driving on the interstate in New York and New Jersey or vice versa. It's going to have to be more frequent because it's not only going to be Tesla, it's not only going to be Lucid, it's going to be everything from the Ford Pinto to a Rolls Royce that's going to offer this type of technology. So that they're going to have to be a lot more smaller data centers deployed around the globe, not just in America, obviously.
And the supply chain will look more like the smartphones today, right? You
Oh,
have one
absolutely.
model of connectivity, but you have, I don't know how many tens, if not hundreds of models and sub-models of phones. By going back to the question of sustainability and supply chain, because you are definitely deep into the supply chain, what did you see in terms of logistics and infrastructure? You already mentioned that the infrastructure needs to evolve, needs to change. You talked obviously about AI and hyperscalers and how the hyperscalers actually need to get distributed because the demand, they have to be very close to the point of demand, the point of action. And if you look at sustainability, you already mentioned the smart buildings. So your choice, we can go on the sustainability direction or we can go in the supply chain direction or both in the same time.
Well, we could do a little bit of both. I could say that we make a conscious effort when we're making decisions for our company to move in the right direction. And it's not me just saying that on your podcast. We're ISO certified. So Intertech is basically a third party that comes in, for those of you listening, and does an audit on our operational, our standard operating procedures, so that we are saying that we're good. And if we do make a mistake, that we learn from it and we don't repeat that mistake. So we've held this for, several years, this certification, and we pride ourselves in it because it's somebody else, it's not us just checking a box and saying, oh yes, we're being compliant. It's a third party that's coming in and verifying that we're doing everything that in our means to ensure the safety, well-being, and our clients are, their criteria is being met and their expectations are being exceeded. So, for instance, we were talking about sustainability with the clients and things like that, but we're also taking an initiative that we personally are doing it. So we're looking at buildings that, is our building in a flood zone, for future, because that's also something that we have to take in consideration, because we hold millions of dollars of equipment in stock. So if there was to be, a flood, I don't want to jeopardize the new data center that we're providing, or an arena, a sports arena, or enterprise building. So we have to take a conscious effort in that, and then also playing a good role in the community that we serve, so that we look at waste. That's another thing that we look at. So if you receive a package with this logo on my chest, for those that you could see the video, the Wise Components logo, I take pride in, because every one of our it's got a Q&A, it's inspected, it's 99.9% of the time you're receiving recycled boxes. You're not getting a brand new box. That's by design, because of waste. All our plastics, papers, popcorn, insulate, all that is recycled and reutilized once it's inspected, to properly secure material so that it gets to the site on time, defect free, is a slogan of ours, and we stand by it. So the packaging material that we're using, we're making sure that we stand by it, and we're also not wasting material. We're not being wasteful. So that's another thing.
You bring to me the same image as first responders, what first responders do for people, because they have to have multiple routing, as you mentioned, right? They have to get, when it's a flood, when it's a natural event, they have actually to be ready to sort of get around the roadblocks and the floods and the water and
Yeah.
deliver. And
Yeah,
at the same
it
time,
happens.
you
I
yeah.
think there's a lot of great companies out there. Again, it's not an infomercial that your listeners are hearing from me, but I will say that we're an agile company, and that there are many a times where, in comparison to some of the larger organizations that we compete with, it's a benefit to us, because many of our employees run their own little business unit, because we're not 35,000 employees in 100 countries. I understand some of my competition is that, and their hands are tied. They can't allow 35,000 employees in 100 countries just run wild and do as they please. So we allow the people that work with on our team, whether it be in operations, admin, logistics, sales, purchasing, we employ these people because we know what they're capable of, and they're conscious. They're making conscious efforts every day. So they're not coming to me. They're not coming to management every single time, which allows them to go back to the customer very quickly with a yes or no, so that the customer will be able to make their decision. Where in some cases, no is going to be acceptable in my book, because I don't want to promise and something that and then underperform, right? So I understand that working in previous life, I worked for a multi-billion-dollar company, and similar to what I just described, where you have 35,000 employees in 100 countries, you can't afford them to run little business units. It's impossible. So we have that leg up on them in that regards, where we're agile. In their system, you would have to something as simple as, can this product be delivered? And it's like, well, I have to check with my branch manager. My branch manager has to check with the VP of the account. Then it's another VP, and then somebody else with another title. And then 3 days later, they come to the customer and they say, no, we can't do it. Whereas 3 days ago, we've already said yes or no. And it'll allow the customer to make their decision which way they're going anyway. The biggest thing that I'm competing with right now, from I think in AI, and we're not struggling with it, it's just a situation that's come up, and it's been in conversations regularly, is that many big box stores, and I don't want to name anybody, have integrated AI platforms into their customer service as well as into their sales order processing. So many of us that are buying from, whether it be in e-commerce, like the one with the big A, you know, when you go on to that platform, there's AI integrated. So you're typing in a part number or description, and before you finish the part number or the description, the AI is generating
Yes.
is generating what it is you're looking for, and then it follows up with, okay, this person's looking for this item A. They're also going to need B, C, D, E, F, G. So we'll show them that. Whereas we have people that have been with us since the 1990s, in some cases, that are very knowledgeable of the product. So you might be typing in a part number, or not you, Manuel, but somebody might be typing in a part number into the SKU, and that might not be the part that they actually need. So this is the challenge that I struggle with, is because I can guarantee, and it came up in a conference that we both attended recently, that in some cases, when you're typing in the wrong script into an AI model, it's junk in, junk out, right? That we all know very long. So this is again, not a struggle. It's a situation that we're at the fork in the road right now in our company, and we're saying, do we turn the switch on? Because we have software that's integrated into our company, but we're kind of hesitant right now, because the simple fact that sometimes specs are not written correctly. I'm just going to throw that out there, and they might have been cut, copied, and paste from previous, things. Part numbers could be discontinued, or a part number could be changed. A lot of the manufacturers, we deal with hundreds of manufacturers with countless SKU numbers, that sometimes they don't do away with the product. They change the description, they make it different a little bit, twist here, bend there, and then they put a different letter or a nomenclature together, and they say, well, it's just like the other one. Whereas when you or we go into these platforms and we type in the part number that is written on the spec, or that was provided to us, or we believe that's the right part, the
I,
computer, the AI program
I
is not going to change. It's only
actually
going to give you
you
what you put into it.
you're
With
touching on also the sustainability aspect, right? Because if you get the wrong part, now you send a truck or something to deliver,
right,
you put it back in your stockroom 3 days later. So here are two trucks runs. The customer actually, as you're going through this explanation, I was thinking about AI and as I probably shared with you at that time we first met, that I'm also a facilitator and instructor and visiting lecturer at Cornell, and I have many students with AI. And what occurred to me, and thank you, is basically um, AI will say, "What do you need?" And it's pretty good if you have the correct description, then it will deliver
right,
what you need. But AI doesn't know what are you trying to do, not what you need. Well, you need this part. Okay, good. I understand. What are you trying to do? Well, I'm trying to upgrade or to change this. It's
right,
like, oh, and how do you going to use this part? This kind of thing is not in the AI, at least not in today's AI.
right.
So
Its
AI,
simplest form,
yeah,
in its simplest form, if I may, it's if you're able to type in something as simple as 1 + 1 equal sign, it's going to spit out two,
sure,
right? It's definitely, there's no doubt about it. AI spits out the answer is two. However, if you put blank plus blank equal sign, it doesn't know what to spit out. There's
yep,
no X, there's no Y, there's no one, there's no number, there's nothing associated to it. And in some cases, this is the struggle because some people that are coming to our company, they don't know what they need. They know what their challenge is, and they sometimes don't
exactly.
know how to describe it.
Right. So they need, it's almost like a diagnostic by the doctor. You don't go to the doctor and say, give me an aspirin because I know what I am and
Right.
that's the treatment.
Yeah,
Right.
that reminds me. My wife's doctor. He has a mug on his desk. And his coffee mug reads, "Don't don't mistake your Google search ability for my degree."
And it's true. So, it's a great, I call AI a librarian, right? So if you go in a
It's a
library and
reference guide.
it has the book, right, or the book or the chapter, and the librarian knows what she has in the library, she will deliver to you the book. But if you say, well, I need parts for a pizza, let's say, right? Uh, and the librarian will have to interrogate you. It's like, what are you trying to do? Oh, I have a
Right.
big party. So you need only one pizza or you need three different recipes,
Who's coming?
as an
Anybody
example.
allergic? You know,
Yeah, exactly.
you have to add all
Vegetarian,
these
vegans.
variables in.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the
Exactly.
thing, because like a traditional call to one of our sales associates, they're going to say, for fiber, they're going to say, yeah, I think I need 10,000 feet of armored fiber. Okay,
Okay.
what's your strand count? What's the configuration? You know, is it loose tube, gel? I can't tell you how many times the correspondence is so minimal on the receiving end. And that's not just for our company, that's for
Sure.
many companies. So a lot of people out there are not asking the right, or I should say, a lot of programs are not capable yet to ask the right questions to say, we need more detail to provide you with the right answer, right? So
Right.
they're putting in something, they're getting a result, but sometimes that result could be incorrect because not because of the AI, but the person that put in the information to build that was incorrect.
Absolutely. And when we teach AI, for instance, we have these exercises where we say you ask a generic question, you get a very generic answer. Okay, I want a pizza. Okay, go and get, the ingredients, make the dough. These are the typical ingredients, typical being the key word. These are the typical, things you add. This is how you cook it. But it's a generic
Brilliant.
pizza, right? And people don't like generic and don't use generic
But
things
each,
from, yes,
but if
yeah,
I
please.
may, there's a lot of famous podcasts out there talking about pizza and how not every pizza tastes the same.
Sure.
And hear me out for a sec. When you say build the pizza, and I talk to actual pizza men, pizza makers, they'll tell you where they source the tomatoes from, where they're getting their cheese from, where the good ones.
Yep.
They take pride
Sure.
in it because they know what temperature the oven's going to be at. They know how many times they need to knead the dough to get it to the right thickness. They know how many times they have to put it, a twist on the oven to get it right. And they know how much cheese needs to be. So
Yep.
the AI is very useful tool as a tool. It is not the builder. It is not the
Absolutely.
architect. And that's
No,
where I find the struggle right now, because I know that these conversations are happening with my customers where they're going to Google, or they're going to Perplexity, or they're going to ChatGPT, and they're putting only in the half of an answer, half of
right.
a question.
Yep.
And then they're getting an answer, and they'll say, I need this. And then they come to us and they'll say, this is what I need. And then our people, being experienced, knowledgeable folks, they'll fill in the gaps, and they'll say, well, what about this? What about that? Where is it going
Exactly.
into? What are you
They'll
using?
they'll put the diagnostic, and what exactly? What are you trying to do? Have you done
Right.
it before, right? Did the equipment change? Is the same, right? Maybe I delivered the same part 3 years ago. What happened? It broke. Okay.
I mean,
But I'm sorry, you also brought another important part in the pizza example, which is in the sustainability standards as well, and is the country or the place of origin. And in regulations for sustainability, especially if your parts end up in European theater or in California, uh, pretty soon, in a couple of years, you'll have to say, look, this part was made under these conditions.
right,
Was electric steel, for instance, which has lower carbon footprint than typical coal-based steel, right?
right.
Coats.
Cobalt.
So yeah, you brought very important parts of sustainability, because this traceability also becomes important, right? So this is where we also guide the AI systems to keep not only the information about the parts and where they fit, but also how they are produced, where they are produced, how they are sourced.